It is Ryan here, and I have a question for you. What do you do when you win? Like, are you a fist pumper, a woohooer, a hand clapper, a high fiver? If you want to hone in on those winning moves, check out Chumba Casino. Choose from hundreds of social casino style games for your chance to redeem serious cash prizes. There are new game releases weekly, plus free daily bonuses. So don't wait. Start having the most fun ever at ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
You are listening to the On Purpose Podcast, your guide to living a more purposeful life. What's up, everybody? Welcome to this week's edition of the On Purpose Podcast, where you know it's our privilege to be here with you. It's our privilege to show up with you each and every week, to have this space in your life, and we don't take that lightly. We are always striving to bring you the most powerful stories, topics that'll get you thinking, get you moving, maybe get you reflecting on some stuff that needs to be done or should be done or said. And this week, we're excited to bring on a storyteller, strategist, and visionary leader, Nathaniel. He has a real popular TEDx talk out there on YouTube. We'll put the link in with the show. And he's an advocate for meaningful connection that lives by the motto, connect, create, and contribute. From his roots in music, social media, and leadership development, Robin has dedicated himself to inspiring positive transformation. So get ready for a conversation that I hope challenges the way you think about connection and contribution in today's world. And before we get to that, please do me a favor, get over, like, subscribe, share on whatever podcast apps you're listening, on YouTube, comment on our social media. Something as simple as giving us a thumbs up, or I really like this episode, or this was a great point, one of your takeaways from the episode, does so much for us to find more people and to reach our goal, right? Our goal is to be the most purposeful, the most impactful podcast in the world, and we can't do that without you. So get over, do that, and then get ready to think a little differently today with our conversation with Nathaniel. Honor the Brave was founded by retired law enforcement officer Jeff Wolfgang and his wife Xana after Jeff was injured in the line of duty. It's their way of giving back to the first responder and military community through real estate. If you're a military or first responder, past or present, buying or selling a home, Honor the Brave connects you with trusted realtors nationwide and gives back through their Brave benefits. You receive an amount equivalent to 10% of your agent's commission as a thank you. An additional 5% goes to a charity you choose impacting first responders or military families, and you'll receive a handmade wooden flag honoring your service. Visit honorthebrave.com. We've got your six. Robin, my newest friend, welcome to the On Purpose Podcast. How are you today?
I'm doing well, Jerrod. Thank you so much for having me. I'm pumped about today's talk.
When I saw you come across, man, I don't even remember how I got connected up with you, but I saw you and I went right to your TED Talk. And I was like, oh, if I could sit down and talk with him, man, this is going to be a good time, because you speak with such passion and clarity and purpose and a strength. So I want to first off thank you for finding your voice, for sharing your voice, for believing in your voice, and knowing that you can make somebody's day better by sharing your story.
Yeah, you're very welcome. And for me, that's kind of like always been my dream and goal, was to share a message. Even when I was very small, I started writing rhymes and became a rapper at 9 years old. So at 9 years old, I was already interested in like speaking and saying things. And as my career kind of developed and music kind of faded to the back and I was introduced to public speaking, it just made sense for me to get on stages and share my story.
And I can't, dude, it just gave me chills listening to this story and understanding one of the things you talk about is the power of your words, specifically the power of your last words. And I want to get into that because I think, just like you said, if we focused on what we said right now as maybe the last thing we say, what will we do differently?
Yep. I think so many times, Jerrod, we go through life and we're just going through the motions. And I'm guilty of this. I always tell people all the time, no matter if I'm on a stage, on a podcast, that I'm doing the work every day. I'm wildly flawed. I'm super imperfect. And I know that, and I embrace that, right? What I would say is, for many of us in society, we just operate, just kind of almost like when you go through a car wash and you got to throw that joint in neutral and you just kind of let it take you. Many of us are going through life like that, where the outside is getting cleaned, but we're not steering it, we're not directing it. And I think when it comes to ending conversations, it seems like a very simple thing, but your words and your impact on a person could have a variety of effects. If you know that and you can take control of that, there's no telling what kind of impact you can have in the world. There might be a person at Walmart who works at the, at the cashier register who had a serious, loss in their family, or has a ill family member at home, and you go through the line and you give them attitude, and you're like, like, God, well, look at you, you work at Walmart, like, oh, right, as opposed to, hey.
Bubba Wallace here from 2311 Racing. Funny thing about being fast, you end up waiting a lot. First to show up, first in line, then just waiting. Me, I rev up Chumba Casino. With over 200 social casino games, no slow lanes here. Why sit around when you can spin? I'm already racing. Your turn. Play for free at ChumbaCasino.com. Let's Chumba.
Sponsored by Chumba Casino. No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
Thank you so much. I hope you have a blessed day. Like, subtle differences like that could have a huge effect on people because you don't know where people are in their journey.
And what I love about that, Robin, it has a huge effect on you.
Even better. Thank you, Jerrod.
Because now you feel good because you're like, man, I just put a smile on somebody's face. Now I feel like smiling a little bit. You know what I mean? And then it gets contagious. And maybe what I love to talk about is that ripple effect, right? Maybe you do something nice for them, and then they're nice to the next person whose day was even worse.
Yep. Yeah. I'll share a quick story with you if that's okay, Jerrod.
Yeah, I love it.
So back early in my career, I was a youth development specialist, right? I started off at the bottom as like a counselor, moved all the way up to second in command at one of the largest nonprofits in the country. So during my time as a teen counselor, we used to take these retreats with the kids where we would take them on a bus. They'd meet kids from other parts of the area in the Northeast and have these just like positive experiences. One of the young ladies, it was a senior year, and she said something while giving her like testimonial to the younger group that stayed with me to this day. She says, you know what, guys? It's a lot easier to be nice to people than it is to be mean to people. It takes so much effort to like be mean to someone. And when I came to this program, I was always mean to people. And I realized that just being nice and being kind, not only is it easier, but it also makes you feel better. And that's something that I try to teach my kids. It's something that I try to practice. And I think the challenge, Jerrod, with that is like, even when you're in a space where conflict is coming, conflict doesn't have to be negative. Conflict can be healthy as long as you come from a position of gratitude, peace, and kindness.
And realizing it's temporary.
That part.
You know what I mean? Like we get so ramped up, like, oh man, Robin really made me mad. I can't wait to tell him how I feel about this. And like we get all these energies and stuff, and like at some point it's gonna pass.
It's gonna be okay.
Yeah, it's gonna be okay. He's still a good person, right? All right. Before we get into the heavy stuff, Robin, I like to think of this as a warm up. You know what I mean? Like a workout. I gotta warm you up a little bit. You ready for your warm up?
Oh, yeah. We're doing a layup line? What are we doing?
Here we go, man. Let's go. We're going to start getting nice and loose here. All right. You get one word to describe you. What's your word?
Grateful.
I love it.
I'm grateful. I'm a grateful dude, man. That's something that, and again, like I said, I'm a work in progress, right? You asked me that question in 2005, you would have got a very different answer, right? But I think where I am at this stage of my life, I'm in my 40s. I have 2 kids. I have an amazing career. I have a growing business. I have so many blessings. And with all of the challenges that I face, in life, like in those same arenas, like one thing that keeps me grounded is just being grateful and understanding that there's somebody out there in another country that doesn't even have food or water. There's all kinds of conflicts happening in this country, in other countries where their towns and cities are being bombed. Like I have to operate from a position of gratitude in order for me to really function at my highest level.
Yeah, love it. Favorite quote?
This one's from my wife. I keep dropping it because it's simple, but it hit me. I think she made it up off the top of the dome. She was like freestyle. She was freestyling this one, Jerrod. I don't think it's something she wrote, but since she told me that, I want to say it's about a year and a half ago, I had a big decision to make. Somebody made me an offer to do something that was going to be a great opportunity, but would require an immense amount of bandwidth. That honestly, had I committed to this opportunity, it would have shifted our entire family, and things would have just been wild. It would have been great for me as a professional and for my career and stuff, but it was something that I had to turn down, and it was because of this quote. She says, "Do what you are." That is from my wife, Joan Quo. She's a realtor. If you guys want to look her up, the focused agent. she is on fire right now. But do what you are is the quote that I would share with folks. And really, it is what it is. It's just like don't go out here in this world pretending to be something that you're not. Putting your time and effort into things that you know don't align with who you are as a person, what your values are, and what you believe in. And sometimes that requires a pay cut. Sometimes that requires, a status change. And do what you are has been the quote that has carried me in the last couple of years.
That's a powerful one. I love that it came from your wife. All right.
Yep.
If your life has a theme song, what is your song?
I have many, but the one that just came into my head as soon as you said that was the Rock Boys by Jay-Z. It's really like a celebratory kind of a jam where it's like the Rock Boys in the building tonight. Oh, what a feeling I'm feeling life. Like, whoo, like that just came into my head because we listen to a lot of music around here. We're big time Disney fans. Obviously, I have a 6-year-old, 15-year-old. I have a hip hop background, but that song right there is definitely one like celebration, gratitude. It's really fun.
Oh, I love it. All right. Favorite book or current book you're reading? Either one's good here.
That's a good one. I'm currently reading a couple of books, but the one that I'll share would have to be This Is Marketing by Seth Godin.
Mm-hmm.
It's been around for a while, but it's one of the marketing books that I dug into early in my career, and it's one that I kind of refer to. It's a really easy read, really simple. I love the way he kind of frames things, and honestly, my book, Social Media Sync, a lot of it was inspired by the formatting of Seth's book. It's very simple. He also breaks it down into like short sections and short paragraphs, and my book is very much the same way. Headline with a couple of paragraphs, and then we go to the next topic with a headline. And I was definitely inspired by that book.
Love it. You get to have dinner with one person, Robin. They could have passed or still be with us. Who would you have dinner with, and what would you want to ask them?
Whew. People, I used to ask this question to people in job interviews when I would interview people, and I've been asked this question before, and it's kind of always the same answer. So for me, I would want to just sit down and have dinner with my mom. I lost my mom when I was 17 years old in high school. So, last year, I was the same age that she was when she passed away. So I've since lived a year longer than my mother ever lived. So for me, I'd love to connect with her. I'll unpack it a little bit if that's okay, Jerrod.
Yeah, please.
I'd like to sit with her when she was in her 30s, a little maybe 10 years before she passed away. I'd like to connect with that version of her because I was so little that I never had any kind of mature interactions with her. It was always like, I love you, mommy, right? It wasn't like anything deep. So I'd love to get into her head because to give a little background, and this is not something that I share in the talk or really anywhere. My mother came to this country with a 4th grade education from Trinidad and Tobago. So she was an immigrant, pregnant with me in her stomach, coming to this country, and ended up building a great life for herself, becoming a small business owner, a successful business owner, become a homeowner in New York City, which now and then is not easy, especially for someone who is just starting from the bottom. So my entrepreneurial spirit, I believe, comes from her. And I would want to just chop it up with her about some of that, like how did she overcome some of her challenges, and take that with me. So my mom is who I'd like to have dinner with.
I love that. You feeling warmed up, Robin?
Oh man,
You good
warm.
to go? You're
I'm
warm, nice,
dunking.
and you're loose.
I'm
You're ready to
loose.
go. Hey, can we start with your mom? Because that was one of the powerful parts of the TEDx talk I watched was your relationship with your mom and kind of how you took what was and created what is now. That makes
Mhm.
sense.
Yeah. It
Mind sh-
Go ahead, Jerrod. You want to say one more
yeah,
thing?
no, if you don't mind sharing that with us, I'd love to start
Yeah.
there.
Yeah, I think what was is that I was a child, when I went through that entire experience. And folks can see the talk to really hear the whole story, but I'll give you a skinny, the skinny and a quick and dirty rundown. I'll start by saying these are some of the most embarrassing parts of my life that I shared on the stage, right? These are things that I had never spoken about publicly. These are things that
How to have fun anytime, anywhere. Step 1. Go to ChumbaCasino.com.
ChumbaCasino.com. Got it.
Step 2. Collect your welcome bonus.
Come to Papa welcome bonus.
Step 3. Play hundreds of casino-style games for free.
That's a lot of games. All for free?
Step 4. Unleash your excitement.
Chumba Casino has been delivering thrills for over a decade. So claim your free welcome bonus now and live the Chumba life. Visit ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
I didn't share with people because I felt like it would bring a negative light to my mother. And I love her, and she was a great mom. But parts of the story didn't, didn't paint her in a favorable light. I'll say that. But I love her and miss her. But back then, I was a child, not fully aware of what trauma was or what my experience was. I just thought we had a good life, and it was normal for stuff like that to happen. Normal for your parents to split up and for you to have your clothes packed up in a garbage bag and go live with your dad. Thought it was normal to live with a man who had never raised a child before and live a bachelor's life essentially from first grade right on up to sixth grade, moving from apartment to apartment, woman to woman, school to school. I thought that was just life. I couldn't even analyze it. Now, where I am, having two children of my own, having a stable marriage, knock on wood, God bless. Let's keep that going, right? And honestly, in all seriousness, an amazing partner. My wife is like, I think about how lucky I am to have her because I've been in relationships that weren't healthy. So the fact that I have found someone who compliments me, supports me, and makes me better is a blessing. So I think my story with my mom then was a position of lack of awareness of my environment. And now where I am, using my experience as a vehicle and a tool to impact others. And that was the click for me. That's why I call it the mud on my boots, right? All of this mud that I leave at the door when I come into your house, Jerrod. I'm not bringing the mud into your house. I'm going to take my boots off. However, what I realized in this process of writing this TED Talk was that I need to walk in the house with the mud on my boots so people can see, and they might have mud on their boots as well. And they can understand that they don't have to hide it. And we can actually bring it to the table so we can clean our boots off together. And I think that's the biggest then and now moment with that experience with my mom is that, yes, it was traumatic that I was put out of the house. Yes, it was traumatic that she passed away before I had a chance to make things right with her, right? Yes, I went through probably about 15 to 20 years of just not understanding trauma and just living life broken to putting it all down on paper to begin a healing process, because like it's a recurring through line. It's like I am just working through the mud still till this day. I'm still dealing with losing my mom, but now I have come to the realization that opening my mouth and painting that picture for people, it helps folks who are walking that walk, people who are in that season of their life. The comments on the YouTube video of the talk brings me to tears sometimes, Jerrod, when people are like, Robin, I haven't spoken to my mom, but seeing your talk made me want to call her thanks. And I'm like, that's what it is. That's kind of the whole, circle of progress in terms of the talk then and now and my mom.
And I want to ask you, like, how important did it become that, as you said, you allowed people to see the mud on your boots?
You said how difficult?
How important was it?
Important. When I was preparing for my talk, I was going into it with an opportunist perspective. I was like, all right, about to get some clients. I'm like licking my chops, like, yeah, like, what can I write about? And I went to the organizer, God bless his soul. His name is Daryl Stinson, an amazing speaker, 2-time TEDx speaker, millions of views on both of his videos, a coach. He's just a great guy. And I went to him and I pitched my first idea. All right, Daryl, I want to do this talk about how YouTube can teach you anything. At the time, I was working with a company called vidIQ. It's one of the top YouTube software companies, and I was one of their founding creator coaches. So this was right in my wheelhouse, and it was aligned with my business as well. And he was like, that's a great topic, but let's start from the beginning. Tell me about yourself. Tell me about your life. And I was like, well, I moved down to Georgia in 2020. He was like, tell me about little Robin, like start. So I started telling him this story and I finished the story. I'm emotional now because I'm talking about the mud, right, Jerrod? And I don't talk about it. He's like, that's the talk. And at that point, I was resistant still. I was like nobody's gonna hire me because I lost my mom and my brother went to prison when he was 16 years old and died, a couple of years ago. No one's gonna actually hire me for my services. And he was like, nah, it's not about that. He's like, work with that. And as I began the process, Jerrod, is when I realized the importance of my talk. Because now talking about something, living something, that's important, and that makes sense, and it has some value. But writing down and documenting stuff is huge. And I tell my son all the time, he's a basketball player, and he wants to be a professional basketball player. Like, it's his dream. And I tell him all the time, I say, Bronson, document your journey. Like, how many shots did you put up today? Like, write it down so you can look back. Oh, I know I've been doing the work. For me, in that particular experience of writing out an outline of how I wanted to present my talk, going into detail and letting it all out, refining it and editing it, that's when I realized how important it was. I went through it like, man, this could really impact some folks. And then I had a shift of how can I use this to come up versus how can I use this to serve? And that, in fact, has carried over to my work. And the byproduct of it is opportunities just keep coming because I'm rooted in service, not in opportunity.
Powerful, right? Powerful when we shift our focus like that. And what I love is by showing that side of you, it makes people want to work with the now side of you because we know where you've been.
Yeah. Right. And we live in a world where everyone's sharing their highlight films. Like my world is social media. All I see is people's highlight films. People are like, oh, I got a 360 dunk, a buzzer beater shot, right? Like, goal, touchdown, no one's like turnover.
Right.
No one's like death in the family. There are people who do that, and those are the people, for me, like, I want I want people to be human. And hey, listen, it's okay to celebrate wins. I'm not here saying that we shouldn't celebrate wins. I do that as well. But there has to be a balance where we also kind of are comfortable with sharing our shortcomings as well.
Well, that's what unites us. That's what brings us together. That's what makes us human.
I agree.
Right? It's why the underdog is always rooted for.
Yeah, I love that.
Right. Like I go back to every time, like the one that comes to mind is the New England Patriots when they were undefeated in the Super Bowl. And they're going against the Giants, who I think were like barely one game over 500 before the playoffs. And I bet like 90% of the world was rooting for the Giants because most of us are the Giants. We're struggling to get through. We're like, as you would say, mud on our boots. We're still in progress. We're not perfect.
Yeah. I'm a big Giants fan, so that hits home. So basketball, I'm a free agent, but for NFL football, I'm a huge Giants fan. And at the time they beat the Patriots twice in that era. One of the Super Bowls, I was in Berlin, Germany, promoting events for my music career. And they threw a party for me to watch this Super Bowl, Jerrod. So it was like super late over there. It was like 2 or 3 in the morning. The game is happening. And this is the one, I believe, when one of the players caught a ball on his head.
Tyree.
Like it was like a big deal. So I run out of this bar, top speed, screaming like, yeah. I'm like, I had been drinking or whatever. A bus is coming. That's how I know I'm being protected. A bus was coming. As I was running out into the street, I look to the left and I see the bus. I can see it right now coming towards me. I had to decide if I was going to stop and like go back or keep pushing.
Yeah.
My momentum was I had so much momentum. If I would have stopped, I would have likely got killed. I just kind of pushed through. That bus probably missed me by like 3 feet. So I'll never forget that Super Bowl.
Yeah, never be the squirrel, right? The squirrel that gets hits is the one that hesitates in the middle of the road.
Yep. You just got to make a decision. You got to commit.
That's right. All right. I think this is a perfect time to segue. Like what you were talking about is that human connection, right? And that your TED Talk, because you were vulnerable, because you opened up about all the imperfections in your life. And quite honestly, sometimes when we open up about the things we're not really proud that we did, but we learn from to get to where we are, is how we create that connection, especially in a world where everybody is filtered and perfect and successful. So one of the things I saw from you that I really liked is your motto: connect, create, and contribute.
Yep.
So talk to me about that philosophy and how did that take shape and how do we apply that?
Yep. So in 2021, my brother was ill. He had a heart condition, but something happened where he had like an infection in his heart, essentially, and he was bedridden. Like I said earlier, my brother served 20 years in prison. He went to prison at 16 years old. So he lived his adult life in prison and then was finally released and then sent to Trinidad and Tobago because he wasn't an American citizen. So he was living his new life down there for a few years, and then he fell ill. So that summer we were on the phone constantly. I'm just trying to get him through it. I'm thinking he's going to bounce back. No, he's going to be okay. And then he gets home from the hospital. And once he gets home from the hospital, my father has a stroke simultaneously. Like as he's getting out of the hospital, my father, who at the time was in his late 70s, early 80s, has a stroke. So it's like I shift my energy from like, okay, I'm there for Kevin. He's home from the hospital. Let me take care of dad now. So I kind of shift my attention to my dad because, I'm just trying to be there for everyone. Kevin is kind of rolling, and then he calls me a few times. I miss one of his calls. He leaves me a voicemail. I didn't check it till a couple days later. Come to find out, during that time while I was waiting to check his voicemail, he passed away. So my brother passed away. I never got to like talk to him again. I'd go back to check the voicemail, and it's brutal. I talk about it in the talk, but it's like he's essentially telling me like, yo, I'm going back to the hospital and I'm dying. Like, hit me up. So that happens, and at the time my dad starts to heal, we have to manage his affairs. I had to like pay for his funeral, essentially raise the money. for his funeral. It was a lot. And after I finished, I got into a space where my business, which at the time was built on coaching musicians on social media. That was my market, was really coaching musicians on how to operate on social media. I just decided just overnight, I was like, I don't know if I want to do this anymore. And I went through this exercise that I call the joy audit, which is essentially a time audit, right? So I went through my calendar. How much time do I sleep? I'm sleeping about 6 to 7 hours a day. When do I get up? How long does it take me to get ready? How long is my commute? Like, how long am I at work? How much time do I spend with my family? So I did this whole thing, and I realized that there was a big chunk of my time on this business that wasn't bringing me joy. So I essentially closed the faucets on this business, Jerrod, overnight. Ended all relationships I had, finished up any existing contracts, and just changed up my business totally by taking a break. But I realized in the joy audit that I was like, things were not aligned in terms of the topics, ideas, or values of each of my my time blocks. And so I needed to simplify it. I was making a sandwich one morning in one of my time slots, and I was like, what is this? Like, what am I doing? And it hit me it just hit me like a ton of bricks that I was creating. I was making a sandwich. It was simple. I was making a sandwich, but I was still creating. I was like, so this is like a create block. What is it when I connect with my wife when we have coffee in the morning? We're connecting. Connect, create. What am I doing when I get to work? What am I doing when I'm working with a client? I'm contributing. I'm contributing to what their mission is. So from that joy audit and these 3 pillars, I started, instead of grouping things like going to the bathroom, like I was maniacal about this. It was like going to the bathroom, coming back from the bathroom, washing hands. Like I was doing like 5-minute blocks, 10-minute blocks. Finally, I just broke it down into these 3 pillars. And if I'm not doing one of these three things, I don't need to be doing it. If I can't make it, like this is a connect pillar. Me and you are connecting.
Riley Herbst from 2311 Racing here. And you know what grinds my gears? Waiting for coffee. But instead of counting frappes and lattes, I fire up Chumba Casino. No apps, no fuss, just fun social casino games to pass the time. By the time my coffee's ready,
Order for Riley.
I've already taken a few victory laps. Next time you're stuck waiting, make it entertaining. Play for free at ChumbaCasino.com. Let's Chumba.
Sponsored by Chumba Casino. No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
And some of them have overlap where we're also creating because we're making content. So I'm connecting and creating, and you could even say contributing in a way as well, right? So if it doesn't hit these 3, if it doesn't fit into one of these 3 pillars or buckets, then I don't need to be doing it. So my brother's passing really led to this. It's like me operating in a way where the time, which is that non-renewable resource that is scarce and we can't get back, right? When my kids are 21, 22 years old, they're going to be like, my dad was at every game because I was connecting with them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's where the system came up. That's how I came up with the system. And for people to implement it, that's all I would do is conduct a joy audit using those pillars and just test it out and see how it feels. You can redefine the pillars for your life. You might have a totally different, you might be in a totally different walk of life than me, and maybe it's something else. But try to identify what are those 3 important pillars of your life and see if you can group your time slots into those so you don't waste a minute.
Man, you hit me on that one. As you were saying that, I reflected back. We made some big life changes in 2018, walked away from a career, started creating some new stuff. And I said yes to everything because I was in this mindset of like, just say yes to as much as possible. Something's going to pan out. You're going to keep going. And then my wife, it's funny your quote is from your wife, because my wife and I had to sit down and she's like, why are you saying yes to all this stuff? Like, so we had to do the same thing. Look at what we had committed to and how much fun did it bring us? How much joy did it bring us? How much time are we spending doing this instead of what we really want to be doing? And started paring things down. And we came up with any yeses have to lead to fun, learning, and independence. right? If I can't say yes to any program, any partnership, any collaboration, if you take away my freedom, if I have to be locked into a place and we can't move like we like to move, if it's not fun, we're not doing it. And I think sometimes we, and I love connect, create, contribute. It's simple. I don't get lost in the details of like, well, I don't know, it kind of fits. No, it either is or it isn't. It's either moving.
I love that.
Right? It's either fun.
Yeah, and I think yours, I was going to say, I think that yours, again, it's like very defined pillars. And it's relatable to me because it's very similar to the way I operate when getting opportunities and stuff. So I love that you shared that with me.
So help me understand this, because here's where I see people struggle, right? Is you're successful, you're in music, you're successful, you're doing a thing, you're transitioning successfully to social media, you're successful, but you don't ever stop allowing yourself to reinvent and to pivot to what else you want to do. So share with me how you work through that, because so many people get stuck. Like, I'm good at this, so I'm just going to do this, even though I know when I go to bed at night, Robin, I have dreams of something else. But because I'm successful, right? So many times we focus on, well, I lost here, so I'm going to make this big pivot. But sometimes we don't pivot when we're winning, even though we know there's more on the table for us. So I would love to.
Come on, brother. Come on, brother Jerrod.
That's why we connected. That's why we connected.
Man, you throwing alley-oops now.
I'm trying to set you up, my man.
This is so good.
Yeah, so tell me that, because that's what I want to hear.
Let me start with an example before I go into my story. So I have a dear friend. His name is Joel Leon. He is a TED speaker, a award-winning author. He's the creative director over at the New York Times. He's an activist, a poet, a storyteller, just an amazing man, like an amazing man. And we started out together as rappers. We used to have a residency in New York City at a place called Pianos. The event was called The Melting Pot. And there we had this kind of motley crew of musicians who would come together every month. Me and Joel were one of them. Another one is Arthur Lewis. Arthur Lewis is a Tony Award-winning Broadway guy. He does stuff, grew up with Lin-Manuel Miranda and is in his freestyle, team or whatever. Like, this is like a group of people who years ago were just on a come up together and all have transitioned to do different things. And I share Joel because his transition was so wild, because he is a great rapper and a great musician, but he has gone beyond anything he probably could have imagined for himself through his written word, through him being a writer and through him being a speaker. So to think about myself as a musician, there's this stigma of quitting, right? And it's probably the same for other fields too, especially when it's something that's like creative based and you have this dream of being like famous and successful with being a musician. So I wanted to be a musician since I was 9 years old. When my classmates were applying for colleges, I was sending my demo tape to record labels. I wasn't even applying to colleges. I was like, nah, I don't need that. I'm going to be a rapper. When they went to go to the University of North Carolina and Duke and NC State, because I went to high school in North Carolina, I took my Pell Grant money and jumped on a bus, moved to Staten Island, New York to try to join the Wu-Tang Clan.
Wu-Tang.
Like, that was at 17. Yeah, when I was 17, I moved to Staten Island because my friend Darren, his brother Blue, lived with one of the Wu-Tang members, Capadonna, and I went to go move in with them. Like, that's where I was. So this journey of being a musician started very young. So when my son was born and I got older, I was like, I guess I got to just keep doing this. I guess I got to keep doing this, until finally I started to get some success as a nonprofit leader. I was like, well, this pays money. And there's like, there's value here for me to like grow to be a director, an executive director, whatever the title is, right? This could be my way of sharing my message. So I kind of transitioned from like uh, being a rapper into like just being a working man, but I still had the creative itch. So I said, okay, let me try to produce some beats. I'm going to be a producer. Taught myself how to produce. Ended up getting some of my records placed with some successful artists. Now I'm selling beats and I'm a producer. Then people were like, "Hey, how did you grow your audience on social media to over 100,000 subscribers and followers? How'd you do that?" I kept telling people, and I was like, "Wait a minute, maybe this is something that I should do." So then I transitioned there, and so the reinvention kind of continued, and I just flowed with it because I got over that whole stigma of, "Oh, you quit. Used to be a rapper, now you're a producer. Oh, used to be a rapper, now what? You selling beats to people?" That was like a whole thing in the hip hop community. But no one would ever tell me, "Oh, you used to be a rapper, but now you're an acclaimed author and a TED speaker." Oh, boo-hoo. No one's gonna say that. They're gonna be like, "What? You used to rap and now you do that? Why did you rap?"
Yeah.
So, and again, I'm not saying that to like make myself look anyway. I'm trying to just paint a picture for people. Where you are now might not be the ceiling. There might be so much more. I would have never imagined that I would do public speaking if you would have asked me in 2002 when I was releasing music. Never. But that wasn't the plan for me. I just allowed, my skill sets and my passions to kind of lead me up this road. And for that reason, I've comfortably transitioned and reinvented myself based on what the people need and what value I can provide and how I can serve people. And that has kind of been my trick to just manage freely in different spaces.
Well, I love hearing that because I didn't pick up ego, right? And I think that's usually a lot of the biggest hurdle people have to overcome is their own egos of, "Oh my God, what are people going to think about me if I make this change?"
Yeah, I had to listen, Jerrod. I had one at one point with my coaching for musicians. I had like a pretty substantial email list, pretty substantial, and I transitioned, and then all of a sudden, our open rates on that email list just kind of tanked. It was like, we don't want that. Like this, that's not what we came here for. And I just had to make the decision that, you know what? I'm gonna prune the heck out of this list. I'm gonna just take people off the list unless they're opening the email. So I had to like shrink down my audience for me to start over again. And it takes courage to do that. I was scared. I was like, man, like I worked so hard to build this audience and now I'm gonna just start over. But if you think about the reason you're doing things and like what the purpose is behind it, like I have my pillars for my my connect, create, contribute, but I also like I have my purpose is really like setting a good example for my kids. Like I want my kids to see that their dad is passionate about something and that if they change, if he changes into another field or doing a different thing, he still has passion. And the ninja trick is if you can somehow get paid for doing that thing you love, but do it anyway. I would be doing social media even if I wasn't getting paid for it. You know what I mean? I would still be tinkering around with this like a scientist, even if I wasn't like getting paid for it. And that's what I want my kids to see. So I really am rooted in setting an example for my children that you can find something that you love and you can pour yourself into it. And if you're lucky, you might even get paid for it if you're really rooted in gratitude and service.
And Robin, I would just tell you one of the things from my experience. My kids are older than yours. They're all adults now. I would venture to say one of the things your kids are going to remember about you is the courage you demonstrated in being willing to make changes. Because that's what I hear from our children is like, man, like when we meet other parents and they ask what our parents do, and we tell them what you and mom are doing and the changes you made and all the different things you've done in life, it lets them know they can do that and that they don't have to commit to what their path is right out of high school and stick on this career because it's got all the stuff that they thought they needed, but doesn't fulfill their heart and doesn't allow them to contribute to society the way they were meant to be.
Mm, that is some like optimal dad swag right there, Jerrod, because most dads and most parents are not operating in that space, especially for me coming up. Um, my parents, again, they're West Indian immigrants, and it was very much like make sure you like get a good job. Like you want to be a lawyer, you want to be a scientist, like make sure you get a good job. And as I lean more into my music journey, and my dad realized that I was like not gonna be going to college right away. I went to college as an adult learner. I didn't go to college right after high school. I went in my 30s working a job and going part-time. But my dad, like, he was heartbroken, Jerrod. He was like, look at him, look at them, look at them. They went to school. Like, why can't you just like no one's like you're never gonna make it as a rapper? And not no shade against my dad. I love my dad. He did a great job. I'm grateful for him. He's in his mid 80s, still kicking. He's an awesome dude. But he was fearful, especially coming from an immigrant background. So I think you sharing that is something that dads need to really embrace. Is like it's okay for your kids to pivot and shift and reinvent and not follow traditional paths as long as it brings them joy and it benefits them and others. I think that's the way to go.
And I've never, very seldom have I ever heard somebody get to the end of their life and say, man, I wish I'd worked more. I wish I would have put more hours in on the job. Like, what is it? Those deathbed regrets are usually, I wish I'd have spent more time with my family. I wish I would have pursued this dream or that dream. And one of the things that I like to share with my kids and any young people that I get to coach or mentor is do it now. There's no timeline on your dreams. Because, like you said, you don't know. If you hadn't followed the rap dream, even though the odds are you would never be the multi-million, right? Like just the number of rappers and the odds of breaking through to that top 1% are very much against you. But maybe that wasn't the path. Maybe the rapping path was to open up the storytelling path, to the coaching path. But we won't know what path we're supposed to be on if we're trying to dictate our own path, right? Sometimes you just got to take your hands off the wheel. Be like, hey, I'm going to show up. I'm going to work. I'm going to dream. And I'm going to see where things take me.
Yep. And it takes a certain level of discipline to make those leaps, but also it takes a high level of like logic to make the right decision, because like you said earlier, you can't say yes to everything. You got to have some kind of system or kind of ideas on what works and what's not working for your end goal. But I think for young people, it's like, man, you got a blank canvas, man. You know what I mean? Like really try some things out. My daughter is a great example of this. She's 6. And when I tell you, she does it all. She's like a cheerleader. She plays soccer. She does music. She's in music. They're teaching them all the instruments. So she's trying guitar. She's trying drums. She's trying keys, and she's trying vocals. She's doing swimming. She's like doing tumbling, ballet, like, and it's hard for us. But like I tell my wife all the time, I'm like, let's just pour into all of these interests until she finds what she loves. My thing is, I never wanted to like force something on my kids. Like, you're going to be good at math. We're sending you to Kumon, right? They can go to Kumon, but they can also go to music. They can also go to do sports. So I like the idea of young people understanding that they have a blank canvas in this life and they can paint whatever picture they want with whatever colors they desire to use.
And that's a very mature parenting perspective you're talking about there, Robin, and that you realize your ego as a parent isn't derived from what your kids do, right? And I think that's a tough thing to separate from sometimes, right? Because we have ego, we all have ego, and I want my kids to be as good as they can be. But what does that look like, right? If I'm in comparison mode, like just like you said, your dad's like, well, you didn't go to this college or that college. Well, that wasn't for me. And I think sometimes, and I was guilty of this for sure, as a parent, your kids' disappointments become your disappointment. You're afraid of what it looks like. So you want to protect them and put them on the path. And I know if you go to college, and get a degree even though you're unhappy and you're studying something that makes no sense to you and you're not passionate about, it'll get you a certain kind of job, which provides a certain kind of lifestyle, which provides a certain amount of security. So you as a parent, it's easy to steer that because that's safety and you know your kids are going to be taken care of. The mature view is like, hey, you're going to be taken care of because that's how it works. If you show up in the world and you do good, good things happen to you. But pursue your passions. Find a way, as you said, Robin, to merge your passions and money, a way to make a living, because they always overlap if we're open to see it.
Yeah, that's the ninja trick. You talk about disappointment. Back in 8th grade for my son, I'm sorry, I think it was 7th grade. 7th grade, he tried out for the basketball team. He didn't make the team. When I tell you, like we were pouring into him, putting him into trainings, all of the things. But then when he went to go try out, he didn't get picked. Came to the car crying, just like totally distraught. And like you said, like I was like literally feeling his pain. Like I could feel it on my body. Even thinking about it now, it like makes me it makes me tear up because, you know, we want them to be successful, but more importantly, we want them to be happy and be joyful. And I could see how sad he was. So what we did was after that was try to like lift him up, like, hey, it's just a part of your journey. Michael Jordan got cut from the team too. That's what everyone says, right? Like Mike got cut, so it's okay. Another one, SGA, who's in the finals right now, Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, he was also cut. I think he got cut from the from the varsity team in like 10th grade or something like that. He had a similar story. So he came back the 8th grade year, a little better, a little taller, a little faster, and he made the team. But I think that's a part of it, like understanding that you're going to fall and that's okay. Like the victory and wins, like you don't even fully understand them unless you had some losses. And that's something that I try to teach my kids.
Yeah, that reminds me. One of the videos I love sharing is Kobe Bryant talking about his dad. I don't know if you've seen that short YouTube clip. He was talking about his 8th grade year when he was on this high level traveling team for the summer, and he scored 0 points. Did you see?
I know that one.
Yeah, yeah. And his dad just pulled him aside. He's like, "Son, I'm gonna love you whether you score 0 or 40,000 points." And that just gave him the freedom to realize like his relationship with his dad wasn't based on how well he did at something, but just on being who he was. And that love was unconditional. I think a lot of times if we kind of like, it ties all the way back to what you talked about earlier, your last words. If we know that the person we're interacting with is going to love us and be there for us, whether we fail or we succeed, whether we take a risk or we stay in our lane, if we know that these relationships and that people actually are going to care about us, how much more will we lean into who we could really become?
Yep. Yeah. I don't want to leave anything unsaid, man. That's one thing. Like I want to do my best to make sure that, you know, I'm telling my kids I love them. I'm telling my wife, and again, I'm flawed. I have rough days. Me and my wife had a little bit of a spat yesterday about something else, and she was the bigger person and came to me and just put her arms around me. And as soon as she did that, like all of the silliness that I was holding on to, I let it go. And I think that it's important, man, when you walk out that door, when you get off that call, that you leave people in the space that you want to leave them in, and hopefully it's an intentionally positive space.
Man, I love that. And I love accepting that we don't have to be perfect to be good. Right?
No, I love that.
We don't have to be perfect to do the right thing.
Yeah, perfection is a trap, man. It's tough. Like it can hold you back from a lot. And I think that it's better to just do the right thing, even if it's not perfect, to make sure that it gets done. And you know, like you can feel it in your body when you need to make the right decision. You know, when we get to those different junctions of life and we have to make a decision on which way we're going to go, 9 times out of 10 something is telling you what you need to do. Even if that's the uncomfortable path, something is telling you what to do. But one thing that's helped me is being okay with pausing, because sometimes when we feel that tension, we need to just kind of pump our brakes. There's a piece of my book where I talk about a quote I heard from Pastor Andy Stanley, and it's pay attention to the tension. Where it's like when you feel that like visceral reaction to something, like take a minute and pause. It could be a bad thing, it could be a good thing, but whatever you do, take a minute to pause to kind of assess what's happening before you make that decision. Because, especially with young men, my son, he's 15 years old, and it's crazy out here on the internet, man. But the internet is a wild place. And I just want to make sure he makes good decisions, and pausing, I think, is a good way, a good mechanism for people to avoid any pitfalls.
Robin, as we get ready to wrap up, what's one lesson about resilience that you would like to share with our community?
Whew. Man, this is good. So my experience could have broken me and shattered me into pieces. Sometimes I look at people that I grew up with and friends. Some of my friends aren't here anymore. You know what I mean? And some of my friends are in prison. Like, there's some wild stories. But one thing that I would say from my experience, and what I'll share with your audience in terms of resilience, is that knowing that my purpose is greater than my current circumstances keeps me going and helped me to develop the level of resilience that I needed to be where I am in life. And I have a lot of room to grow. Like, I'm not the richest person in the world. I don't have all of the things, but one thing that I am grateful for in terms of my wealth is that I'm healthy. I have a beautiful family, and most importantly, I'm trying to set a good example for others and those kids. So regardless of what your current circumstances are telling you or forcing you to deal with, your future and your purpose should be the guiding light on what you do.
I love it. Where can our audience connect with you, Robin, and follow along your journey and be part of the positive community you're building as well?
Yep. I'm all over social media at Robin Marks. That's ROBBINMARX. But the easiest way to get in contact with me is to sign up for my newsletter. And what I'm doing for your audience, if it's okay, I'd like to give them a gift.
Oh, please.
I always try to bear gifts. Yep. So if you visit landthetalk.com, spelled that way, landthetalk.com, I'll give you 2 free ebooks for social media, as well as a preview to my book, Social Media Sync. And it'll also put you on my mailing list. I respond to all of my messages. So if once you sign up for the list, you can reply to that email like, "Hey, Robin, it's me, Jimmy," and you'll hear from me. So if you have any questions or want to connect with me, that's the best and easiest way to do that.
Robin, I can't thank you enough for the work you're doing, the man you are, and for finding your voice and the power in sharing that story. I'm so grateful our paths crossed and appreciative of you taking the time to share what you're doing with us today.
It's been an absolute honor, Jerrod. I appreciate you, brother.
And remember, team, life is far too short to live any other way than on purpose. We will see you all again next week.